Hey guys, if you watch this channel, you will know something that is near and dear to my heart is ensuring we engage with on-the-ground journalism. Unfortunately, like 99% of our journalism today is just a bunch of people eating Cheetos in their basement, making stuff up, engaging with topics they have never seen in real life, never lived, they've never been to the countries they're talking about. The only way to truly know what is going on is to be there on the ground. But the second best thing you can get is talking to someone else who has actually been there and witnessed something. So I'm really excited to say I have an independent filmmaker and journalist, Matt Williams, here with me today, who has been on the ground in Ukraine for the last 2 months to chat about his experience there and a few other things. He's got an interesting life. He is a veteran. He's only 26 years old. Best age. Hello. And he's got inoperable, incurable brain cancer. So has just a fascinating perspective on the world, an amazing attitude towards life, and he's also just kind of a total badass. So that's always cool.
As soon as the declaration.
There you go.
Oh, fuck. That's a missile. That's a missile.
Hell.
Fucking missile.
That was one of those like.
I really loved this interview, and I hope you all enjoy it too. Let's jump into it. So Matt, it is an absolute pleasure to have you here on my channel. Could you just tell me a little bit about yourself and what motivated you to go to Ukraine while it's in an active war?
Oh, well, like, firstly, thank you so much. It's pleasure's all mine to be here. It's fantastic. But yeah, to go to Ukraine, I guess that was a bit of a last minute thing, but I guess a long time in the works for me. Like I'm an ex-serviceman from the Australian Army, spent just under 7 years there, like went to Afghanistan, and I was medically separated due to a brain cancer. And I was sort of looking for another job because I'd been separated out of the army. And I thought, well, what adds up with what I'm interested in and where my skills lie? And I'm like, well, I've got some experience in, I guess, conflict. And I work at the moment as like a videographer for doing like some real estate and wedding sort of stuff. And I'm like, if I can combine the two, but I had no qualifications, no anything, I'm like, well, I'm going to have to jump in the deep end and I'm just going to have to fly to somewhere. And I'm like, well, okay, do I go like Iraq or do I go where's on? And I'm like, I feel like Ukraine's about to kick off. And I was just like, stuff it, I'm booking a one-way flight. Spoke to some friends like yourself who are more experienced in that sort of world than me. And I was like, I just have to do it. And I went.
Yeah, pretty solid prediction, hey? How many weeks after you arrived did things kick off? Did you start seeing bombs dropping?
So I think I was there for about 5 weeks before everything kicked off. But it was, I haven't traveled in years because of the COVID restrictions in Australia and I guess sort of the lockdown of Australia. I couldn't leave for years. And not only the COVID, but the year, sort of the 18 months before COVID, I was doing chemotherapy. So I was sort of locked down myself for 18 months and then COVID happened. It was like 3.5 years of nothing. I was like, I'm so keen to get out and travel and do something. So that 5 weeks just blew past. And I was drinking in the Far East and it was fantastic. Everyone's like, I can't believe you're in the Far East, like 20 kilometers from the border, singing karaoke and drinking with the locals. And I made so many local friends there that I'm still in touch with and incredibly close with before I guess the bombs started dropping.
Yeah. And now before we jump into the deep end of what you have seen on the ground in Ukraine, could you just describe a little bit about your medical issues? Because I think that's a huge part of you kind of, maybe I'm analyzing this wrong, but you having this like, F it, I'm just going to do it attitude. I'm just going to go out there. But you're struggling with some pretty serious medical issues, hey?
Yeah, well, I think everyone should sort of embrace that attitude of just do it and just jump in the deep end. And if things go wrong, you'll sort it out. Because a lot of people are a lot more capable than they may think they are. But yeah, in 2017, early 2018, actually, when I was 22, I came back from Afghanistan with like headaches and whatever, and ended up having an MRI, CAT scan, whatever, or a CAT scan, then an MRI, and turned out I had a brain tumor, brain cancer on my left frontal lobe that they couldn't really do anything about. And the actual medical knowledge of mine is very low because it's so rare, especially in someone of my age. So incredibly rare. Like even the multiple neurosurgeons, like 3 neurosurgeons, oncologists, radiologists, no one really knew what to do. So I went through chemotherapy and all of that. And if there's not much you can really do for some of these, rather than really radical surgeries. But then if you cut it out, it tends to come back more aggressive. And if they cut it out, I'd lose movement on my right side. And it's like, we could give you another few years, but you'd probably lose your movement. So I've, of course, opted not to have a surgery, because I'm like, well, I'd rather lose a few years and be moving around like I do, and be able to do stuff like this more easily. And then, to have a couple of years. So I said, they did that. And I guess it became, in the beginning, my social media, which has grown to something I just never thought would happen, in the tens of thousands of people. But in the beginning, when you get diagnosed with something like this, and a lot of people have experience with a family member or themselves with this, you finally get new information about this every day, about like from oncologists or meetings or scans or anything. So I started my Instagram being like, well, I'm going to ring my mum and dad and ring my family, but everyone else, I just don't have the time in the day to tell my friends and everything what's going on. So I just started posting like, yep, today I found this out and I'm doing blah, blah, blah. And it just grew into like, people like, this guy's going through this and just doesn't care. like not that he doesn't get it, but he's just going for it. So yeah, I work on a bit of a timeline with, I could go to university and become a journalist, but it's like, well, I'm not going to go to 4 years at uni and die 6 months after. So if I want to do journalism or I want to do this, it's just like, well, I just have to fly to Ukraine and just start reporting shit that I see and just videoing stuff.
Hey, that 4 years in uni would just be propaganda school anyways. I think this is the way you kind of get a lot better
won't accept
truth.
Well, they didn't want to accept me into to get an accreditation like in Australia, because it was like, we have to uphold professional standards of journalism. And I'm there like full Karen mode. I'm like, what professional standards is anyone upholding here? I'm like, oh, you swear and you this and that. But I'm like, but at least I'm very honest about I'm seeing a missile.
Yeah, you'd think that would be the most important part of it. Not eating Cheetos in your basement with proper grammar while writing a fanfic about everything going on, Ghost of Kiev or whatever.
Exactly. But we've seen that with what's happened in Ukraine, that legacy media are nowhere near as relevant as anyone with an iPhone at any time can be the most relevant journalist in the world at the time. And I think we're seeing that transition that's been happening for a long time, but that real transition to just independent, good people doing good work.
Yeah. So that actually brings me to my first question for you regarding the whole Ukraine situation. First of all, I want to say your story as well with just your health and overcoming that. Absolutely incredible. It's such an interesting thing you're going through too, because you so can't see it. Like you look healthy, fit, handsome, young guy. No one would know what you're going through behind the scenes.
That can be the mentally hard part for me. I talk to a lot of people about when I was having chemotherapy, I felt like the diagnosis and prognosis my doctors were giving me, because I felt like a cancer patient and it sort of lined up. But now I feel fine and I'm running around in war zones. And like I had a scan Monday just gone, like 4 or 5 days ago. And, when they tell you, yeah, well, this is happening and this will kill you, it sort of seems very unreal. And that can actually be more difficult than feeling bad. So it's a really weird, thing to come to terms with still, even 4 or 5 years on.
Do you have this part of you that is like, maybe, I'll be someone that just keeps going? Like you hear all the time about these miracles. Like, does that come up in your mind? Like,
I'm like super like rational down the line of like, yep, this will kill me. And the doctors are very, like my surgeon, she's amazing. Like she's an incredible professor. They're very down the line of like, look, don't get your hopes up on this. Like I know people like these miracles and stuff, but 99.9% of cases will kill you in this. Because, and I guess neurosurgeons, you need to sort of read through it, because they're not just your average Joe. These are people with a very high IQ, incredibly hardworking. They're not me and the boys down at the pub talking shit. It's very different. So it can be a bit hard to actually relate sometimes. But yeah, they tell you pretty upfront that like this will kill you at some point. But like, with me, it's been so long that the neurosurgeons cannot believe I don't have neurological deficits. Like they're like, your tumor literally controls your right arm. We don't know how it's controlling it perfectly. And you never know. Maybe I'll just, like a lot of the boys who know me from back in the day are like, mate, you'll die. Something else will get you before that. like something will kill you well before that. And then it stirred up all the boys just taking it out of me when I was International Cancer Awareness Day. Just by luck, I ended up in Chernobyl, and they're like, just free radiation. It was just like, oh, for God's sake, it just ended up ended up perfect. And when I got positive scan results back, all the same boys who were just like all the army lads, just being like, "See, I told you, mate, you would have been in strife if you didn't go back to Chernobyl and get that free radiotherapy." You know, Medicare ain't shit compared.
Well, you know, a lot of people live their whole lives without actually living, and at least you're actually damn living the life you've got on the ground, seeing the freaking world. It's incredible. So when it comes to being on the ground, being in Chernobyl, being in Ukraine, how different has your experience been from what you're seeing in the press?
Yeah, well, I guess experiences vary massively from what you see and what happens, even just person to person. But a lot of in the press that I see is like incredibly, well, it really depends. Early on was all like Kiev, and I'm like, there's so much happening so much further east of that, and you know the struggle of the people. But as far as like the everyday press, to be honest, I really don't watch much. Like of my age group, I'm like, I just don't care about what they're doing. But you know, I was talking to my hairdresser today. I got a trim for you. And he was talking to me, he's like, you know, about, oh, you've just come out of Ukraine. And he's like, the media aren't showing the absolute catastrophe of human life lost on both sides. And that's probably something that I may not have seen a lot of it, but I, you know, going through that, just the amount of people being killed on both sides is just something that at least he was saying that the media just aren't showing, because he was like, oh, is it in the hundreds? I'm like, no, it's in the tens of thousands.
Really?
Like this is like a proper war in Europe, a full scale war. This isn't skirmishes that happened in Afghanistan or in whatever. This is a full scale European war. You know, Russia's losing 400 plus people a day or something. It's just, and I know a lot of what at least he said was the media that he consumed are not showing any of that. But as far as, you know, a lot of the media stuff is just short snippets of the really punchy stuff. But I think a lot of what they're leaving out might just be the sad stuff of seeing, you know, crying women and children across the border. But the strength of the Ukrainian people is something that from the day one I got there through the war is something that is just unbelievable to me, at least coming from Australia, where we just wouldn't, I don't believe that we would have that in the same regard of people who I barely know putting themselves like putting myself before them, and I'm a foreigner in the country. Just like the most lovely people ever. And these people are not like victims seeking refuge. They're people leaving, you know, the country because they're like, well, I can help my own country from over here more and support on the border or do this. It's not victims leaving. It's not people escaping to just save themselves. It's like, no, well, I'll do a better job over here. And I really can't speak higher of the people that I met crossing out of the borders. And it's heartbreaking seeing it. You know, across the border, the first border crossing took me like 30-something hours.
How many people were you with? I know that video you uploaded of it got insane engagement of you walking across. It was the Ukrainian-Polish border.
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, I crossed into Poland, actually twice, because I've been in and out twice. And yeah, that for me, that got insane sort of exposure. And I would have been, like, it doesn't really show it well because there's like a line to even get onto a bus to get to the border. And then like there's multiple lines, but you're talking thousands of people to cross immigration, like thousands and thousands. And I was like literally the only male there.
I was going to say, I thought they weren't allowing males to cross the border.
No, they're not.
Ask you about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm still waiting to see some level of like feminist group, you know, start kicking up about only men and men not being allowed to cross. I'm still waiting for that equality talk to come up somewhere. So yeah, I stuck out massively, and I had to be really obvious that like I'm an Australian passport holder, and like I'm journalist, whatever. Because as soon as I've lined up, the Ukrainian soldiers like, who the hell is that person? Because you know, look at like this, I can't really dress up as a babushka and get across. So yeah,
these days,
one of those things. No, well, you never know. Yeah, I think some people. I'm not sure if it's just, you know, jokes online, but apparently there has been some people who have like transition genders being pulled up at the border. Like, no, we know you were but you're now a male, you're staying. I've heard
I've read that online as well, and people are getting pretty pressed about that.
That was my backup. That was my backup if I wasn't getting across. But as far as like having a beard too, they very quickly knew I wasn't Ukrainian. Like no Ukrainian men have beards except for the priests. And if you've ever watched any of my videos, the amount of like swearing and carrying on, I'm definitely not a priest. So yeah, it was fine, but it was heartbreaking. Like, it's something the exposure to seeing, a mum with 3 kids and the kids have their own little backpacks on full of their entire life. Like you're crossing the border with everything. Like that's all you've got is whatever you're carrying. There's, everything's gone. And a lot of my friends, because I had friends, most of my friends are from Kharkiv, which is like the city very far east, 20, 30 kilometers from the Russian border. And my friends who live there have lost everything. Their homes are gone. Their animals, if they had to leave their animals, they're gone. Their boyfriends are there either fighting or waiting to be called up to fight, things like that. It's a quite confronting thing seeing that firsthand on the border. And it being, you might see a snippet on the news for 30 seconds, but, you cross in 40 hours, 30, 40 hours it could take in the beginning to get across.
Yeah. And in my opinion, that's the one thing that people can't deny is like, you can have all the disagreements politically that you want, but you can't deny those human experiences that people are going through on the ground in that moment.
Oh, absolutely.
Like
they're just people. And I always say this, if anywhere in the world, 99% of people are good people. And, you might have disagreements or whatever. And I know there's always especially Australia and I guess Canada's the same, just a melting pot of different ideas and hate from 2 wings hating each other on different shit. But I'm like, end of the day, what we don't really agree on, at least our wives and kids aren't having to leave their men behind to cross into a foreign country where they don't speak the language because they're like leaving a war. Like, maybe our stuff's not as hectic as we may think it now. Yeah.
Are you saying that our lack of using pronouns is not the most serious issue on the planet right now, Matt?
Yeah,
are you suggesting that?
You see women and children crossing with their entire life and their husbands staying behind at the border. Yeah, I don't think at that point I cared at all about any of that.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you because of your military experience was what you think of some of the foreign fighters coming in to assist, because that's been a lot of talk in the media, of course. I'm not sure if you've heard of the Reddit Battalion, for example.
Oh, yeah.
So you've got like the Reddit Battalion. Yeah. You've got some serious soldiers that are coming over that actually have experience. And then you've got people that have none. What is the general vibe of, foreign soldiers coming in to help and just kind of, the soldiers on the ground in general? What is their feeling about the international assistance?
Yeah, well, I know the international assistance is loved. Like when I crossed in the second time, I was sort of dressed similar to this, in jeans and with my stuff. So I guess people look like young guy, probably military, and people are thanking me as I'm walking in. I was like, if only you knew I was a journalist, you'd hate me. But I'm walking with body armor. They probably presume I'm there to fight. But like I know that the foreigners are definitely sort of seen as like heroes coming in. But I know a few guys that, one in particular, I won't name him, who went to fight and ended up leaving because he's like, we're going to get killed. That is like the support that was, and this guy fought in Fallujah. He was, Marine, fought multiple deployments everywhere, like incredibly experienced guy. And his big thing was, any of your mates who are coming in, like, it's not that they shouldn't come, but they need to realize this is not Afghanistan fighting guys that live in sandals with no training and an AK. This is still fighting a superpower. This, whether the media is telling you that Russia sucks, there's no logistics, there's no support, blah, blah, blah. You have to step away from that media maybe telling you that. Maybe their logistics is not as good as we thought, but it's still Russia. It's still a superpower of the world. He's like, we literally got artillery for like 6 days straight and got to the point where we had to ditch all of our kit, weapons, body armor, everything to just sprint as fast as we could to get out. And he's like, and his whole thing was, whoever says there's a logistical error is lying, because he said we just got artillery and they were just wasting ammo, just firing at us like they didn't care, and they seemingly just never ran out. So he was like, that's something. The biggest thing the guys I've talked to is they're like, of course, go and fight, but it can be a bit weird when you cross the border. It can be a little bit like you're not you're one of us now. Like you're staying until the job's done, and it's not fighting for an army like the Australian, American, Canadian army where, we have really good like healthcare and we've got good pay and people looking after us and basically like maybe not a HR department, but similar. It's not like that. You're in a somewhat of a militia fighting group with the commander of, at least of this guy. The commander was like out of the Soviet Afghanistan war, using tactics of that era, and at least this guy was not the respect of maybe that he should have had towards the loss of lives of these guys. And this guy in particular and a couple of his friends chose to leave and would have had to escape a border somewhere, because they're like, we're just going to get killed. They're like, we don't have the equipment we need. There's not the logistics and planning that's in place for us. Like everyone's heart's in it, and everyone's heart's in the right place. But I think if people have come from Western militaries where we've had the luxury of having super high-end, crypto radios and all the support in the world, it's sort of flipped. If guys who are used to being on that American, Australian, whatever side in like, say, Afghanistan or Iraq, where you guys are the ones with the upper hand, you've got the fighter jets and you've got the attack helicopters and everything behind you. It's very quickly, this guy was saying it very quickly flipped, that I felt like that guy in a bush with the artillery hitting us and seeing the Russian frogfoot frogfoot jets coming in. He's like, I very quickly thought, oh, we're not in a skirmish in the Middle East somewhere anymore. We're in a proper war with a near peer partner who's a superpower. So I guess if people, want to help and they want to support, but at the moment I'm like talking to my friends, because I've, a lot of military guys who are out now, I want to go and help. And I'm like, if I were you guys, I'd go look at the NGO route, helping, even if you're in Ukraine, but helping like the orphan crisis, helping, NGO groups medically or training, whatever, rather than at least my friends going into those like foreign legions where, well, you don't know, you don't know who's in charge. You don't know what you're doing. It's a hard one. It's a very hard where you lie on it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one thing if you want to die for a cause, right? But a lot of people aren't signing up for that. They're signing up because they want to help and still have families at home and whatnot. And I saw one video on Twitter. If I can find it, I'll put it up here. But it was basically 4 guys essentially getting out of an Uber in Ukraine that were American fighters. And they're just running into the house and watching the video. You can't tell which way the enemy is, which way is up. Like, I don't know how these guys were doing it. Just dropped in the middle of a war zone, bullets flying everywhere. Let's run into the first house in front of us and hope to God everything goes okay. I think that sort of honesty that you're talking about here, about what the situation is like on the ground, is so necessary. It's so necessary, because there is a bit of a perception that I'm seeing where maybe it's just like hopeful people that want something to be true. So they write about it and they're saying, the whole of Ukraine is just covered in obliterated Russian tanks and the Russians are running at every corner. So is that like, when it comes to the back and forth, can you even tell who's winning on the ground? Like, can you tell?
And the propaganda both ways. And I have a lot of people ask me about how do we find out the best information available to us to sort of see who's winning and what's happening day to day. And in my opinion, the only way to do this is probably on Telegram, like the app, and follow the pro-Russian pages and the pro-Ukrainian pages, like the channels, whatever they be on Telegram. I believe that's the only way to get somewhat of a fair ground, because, when I was in Lviv near the end of my trip, my second trip there was an old NATO base hit with caliber missiles from Russia. And it was reported like 20 or 30 deaths. And I was talking to a guy who was going to be a conscript soldier. And he was like, when I was like talking, he's like, he literally laughed at me. He's like, no. There was like 130 something killed there, but they just reported the number way lower to keep the morale of the people and no fear and whatever. What is a legitimate tactic, to keep morale and happiness and that winning attitude amongst people really does help. But the reporting of numbers is, honestly, in my opinion, you can't trust any of the numbers coming out. Are absolutely frauded over how many Russians are being killed and how many Ukrainians are being killed. You really need to look at like the pro-Russian pages, pro-Ukrainian pages, and go, okay, it's somewhere in the middle of this number, somewhere.
Right.
And the like verified stuff, and I'll be pulling numbers out of my ass now, but it was something like in the first couple of weeks, it was, okay, we've killed, 100 Russian helicopters, but there was only verified like 16 killed by like photo evidence or whatever. So I'm not saying anyone's lying, but, psychological operations, psychological warfare in something large scale like this, not only is incorporating your forces, but it's incorporating civilians too. And if civilians know that 50 Ks down the road, 10 Ks down the road, there's caliber missiles killing 120 guys in a hit across the whole nation. Like this is, Russia's firing these missiles, a lot of them from the Black Sea, across the whole bloody nation and killing guys with accuracy. I guess in that PSYOPs phase, it's almost important to, I guess, maybe fraud the numbers a bit to keep up morale and keep people wanting to in the fight. But of who's winning, I couldn't tell you. It's very hard. Like, no, I don't think really anyone would know who's actually winning. But the illusion of just dead Russian tanks everywhere, there may be areas with that, but it's not everywhere. It's not like that at most places. You won't see any of that, except if you're in some of the absolute war zone-y parts. But it's so difficult. It's so difficult, and especially with the footage coming out, because of course the Ukrainian equipment is majority, other than some of the Western Javelins, NLAWs like that, is all Soviet Russian built equipment. So, you see a dead T-72 tank, and it might go through the news as we've killed, through the media and social media of, this is a dead Russian T-72. And you're like, well, the only identifying difference between this, a Ukrainian one, and a Russian one is a bloody Z or a V on the side. Well, it's so hard to know. Like you see a helicopter, like, an Mi-8, whatever, and it's like, well, from a distance, you have no idea what that is. It's all the same. It's all the same stuff. So I guess it's very easy for people to create a narrative somewhere and roll with it.
That is so interesting.
So it's very difficult. And as well as like the invading force, if you're an invading force, you'll always lose more people in the beginning, because you're invading a defensive position. So, would have been logical for Russia to lose a lot more people in the beginning. And I think we look at, society does this, especially, I guess, Westerners. We like to look at things through a bit of a Western lens. And instinctively we have this. We look at like what Russia's doing. Those tactics suck and this and that. Because we as Western would never send just 10,000 men to their death who are just young conscripted soldiers. Our tactics would never do that. We would never do that. But I think too, we need to somehow look through that Western lens and go, but is this part of a greater plan? Is this how they fight? Is this part of, this is part of a greater plan? Look, I don't know. It's only speculation, but I think someone needs to look back and be like, this isn't the Australian army fighting this. This is the Russian military fighting this. And they have a lot different tactics to us, as we've seen over a long time, and a lot different, view to the loss of young men's lives, especially if these are young conscripted guys, that there's no way we're going to send tanks in somewhere knowing they're just going to get chewed up.
Yeah.
But seemingly they've been willing to do that. And whether it's like, well, these are older tanks with our younger troops who are conscripts, we don't really care. I think we need to somewhat take off that Western lens and have a look at like, okay, is this part of something or is this just part of the tactic? And I don't know. It's so hard. It's so hard to, hopefully it'll all come out in the wash at some point, but it's a difficult thing.
Yeah. I mean, there have been a lot of times in history where from our lens, it would look like, look at Vietnam, people with little rifles and rice fields, drive you. There's a lot of situations where militarily we've overestimated or underestimated based on our perception. I do think that's interesting. You talking about those numbers being fudged to boost morale. You're going to have to correct me on this if this is true. You can probably guess who told me this, but apparently when Darwin was being bombed in Australia to boost morale, they didn't want people to know how many people had actually died on Australian soil in World War II. So the government kind of covered up a few of those numbers in the Darwin bombings, or reduced the reports about them. Now, I don't know if that's totally true. I've looked it up a little bit online and there's some discussion, but my point bringing that up is all of those like fudging numbers, boosting morale, that would have been a lot easier during World War I, World War II, any sort of historical battle. But it is so different now with social media. Like you said, you can hop on Telegram and you've got people at those locations with a camera in their hand. Like, yes. Never before in history have we had wars quite like that. I mean, yes, you know, Afghanistan, all of these wars, you did have cell phones, but I feel like Ukraine, what's going on right now, social media is being used for all different types of purposes, more than I've ever seen. What are your thoughts on that, the social media mobilization?
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy to think that, you know, and this is what I talked before, but legacy media is just dead, is because, of course, BBC can't be everywhere at once. But there's someone with an iPhone, someone with an Android phone everywhere. And whether it be, you know, and a lot of it is because, of course, the Russians, of course, don't have their phones or access to the internet from, you know, that's what they're saying. So this is probably why there's a lot more pro-Ukrainian stuff coming out, is they're Ukrainians in the villages, wherever, being invaded, taking videos of this. You're not really seeing as much on the Russian side, but you are still seeing a fair bit. But yeah, it's been a social media war, and it is unbelievable to watch it now that I'm home, to watch things. And I can't believe what it would have been like in the initial invasion, but to be able to watch this live through just some random guy's feed. And that's where a lot of people know me from, is I was on the street live streaming as the first missiles came in on the day of the invasion. And people saying, I can't believe that, like, you're just some random dude live streaming, that you have the ability across the world to do this, and the world can watch that unfold. Yeah. It's something new that I think it's quite upfront to a lot of people. But as far as, like honest, what you're seeing, what's happening, like you said, it'd be a lot easier to have done it in written media, or in very controlled media, like Afghanistan. Your journalists were really tagging along with the troops, rather than just being like me as a tourist there, just filming what I want. It's an incredible thing to see happen. And I think this will set a precedence for how media is consumed and put out there for the rest of time now.
And after you did your first few live streams running around, you ended up on Tucker Carlson. That must have been a pretty wild experience. How was that?
Well, to be honest, so many people asked me about it, and I was that tired at the time that I barely thought anything of it. Like, you know, that was, I think, night 2 or night 3 of the invasion. And I was sold that the invasion wasn't happening. I'd sort of gone logical brain. I'm like, there's no logical reason Putin's going to invade, so I'm going to.
That was my brain too. That was completely me.
There's no.
I think we talked about it too.
Yeah, it's like no. So I was pretty drunk, you know, up to like midnight, and then 2 a.m. the next day, or 3 a.m. I can see grad rockets landing, and I'm like, oh no. Like, if any nights wasn't having beers, it was then. So I didn't sleep that night, didn't sleep for a couple of nights. And then like Tucker's like assistant, I guess, hits me up, like, would you come on tonight, your time, like 4 a.m. And I'm like, oh my God, I haven't slept in like 3 days. I'm like, sure. But yeah, it was an experience. It was something that I think maybe seems bigger to a lot of people than me, because like, of course, I'm not American. We don't get Tucker on the telly. So yeah, it was just another thing for me. But it was really cool. It was a cool experience. And the experience of like getting hate from people who are like, you're just like some right-wing Nazi dude. I'm like, I literally got invited on to just talk about what I saw. Like, how am I now backing everything of the whole Fox network or whatever? And I'm like, oh, this is just, and it was
You're part of the conglomerate.
Oh,
yeah.
And the amount of people being like, because, you know, I'm filming and missiles coming over my head, and you can see them on the video, and that you're being paid off by the CIA and like this and that. I'm like, I'm making no money. Like, I'm here off my own savings. I'm here off my own savings because I think there's an important story to be told in this. And apparently I'm some like getting paid off CIA, far right wing dude with a narrative. And I'm like, no, like, go back and watch. For the first 5 weeks, I was drinking beer, singing Meatloaf in pubs because it was sick, and no one knows who Meatloaf is. So it was crazy. But yeah, Tucker was great.
Well, listen, CIA, right here, you owe this guy a check. You owe him
Yeah.
some money, all right? All right,
I might
guys?
just bill him. I'll send him something.
Yeah, exactly. Send him an invoice.
Bloody hell.
What's the craziest story from your time over there? And you're going back, actually.
Yeah.
Just want to
I'm going
confirm that.
back within the next, say, 10 days, probably within the next week. I've got to sort out a couple of dates. Like, I'm definitely going back, but I just need, well, when I say sort out dates, I'm going to go on bloody Flight Center and look up whatever the cheapest flight is to get there. Because I do, like, I'm not employed by anyone. I'm self-funded. I'm out of savings and YouTube revenue, and YouTube revenue sucks. So it'll be whatever the cheapest flight is. But the craziest story for me, at least, was because we were in the Far East and we expected, we're only tens of kilometers from the Russian border. And we, like everyone else who, isn't now saying that they're a war analyst, expected that if Russia invade, they'll roll over the whole country in 24 hours. And a lot of people are like, no, I never expected it. As if everyone ever was like, Russia will win in 20 or 48 hours. So we're like, we need to get out of this city. Like, we need to get out of Kramatorsk, which is like right near it's the closest city to Donbass, if you've heard of that, like Donetsk area. So we were like, we need to get out. And it was like, there's no real way for us to move out of here. And of course, there was no cash left in any of the banks. All the like terminals to pay were down, like with MasterCard, credit card, whatever, were down. So the only way we could figure out how to buy a car to drive out was, we're like, well, a lot of people, like Ukraine per capita has the highest ownership of Bitcoin in the world. So we're like, do you reckon if we go to like a crappy like Facebook marketplace car that they'll sell us one, transfer them Bitcoin? And it worked. We bought 2 cars.
With Bitcoin?
One was like with Bitcoin. Yeah, we transferred
all of my
this dude.
anarchist Bitcoin followers are like, oh,
Yeah.
yay.
Yeah. We're there with like our laptops and some other dude in a war zone. Like, as we can hear stuff, like transferring wallet to wallet, being like, what the hell's going on? And transferring, we bought like this clapped out Mazda 3 with like 800,000 Ks and this old Audi with like 450,000 kilometers. And I don't think it went too well on social media at the time, but I'm like, so for once, a German car is trying to go to Poland, but from the Soviet Union. And a lot of people are like, too soon, bro. But yeah, bought these cars with Bitcoins and we went separate ways. Me and another journalist, both independent guys, but we're working, of course, independently, but it was, if something happens, we'll help each other get out, whether it be financially or just a hand to hold. And luckily, we sort of went the right way because the other guys actually got shot up. And the Mazda 2 the Mazda 3 lives no more. But luckily, they both survived. One of them got hit 5 times with an AK, which anyone who understands ballistics of an AK-47, like being hit any time is bad, but especially 5. But he's still in hospital. Emil.
And that was
really,
the other part
really
of your crew that you were with when you went.
Yeah, basically, we met like in a bar. Like, we met in a bar. That's how I meet all my friends. Everyone just thinks I'm Australian. It's sort of
no, people don't get it. That is the best way to do journalism. Yeah. I was just doing an investigation in Mexico and I'm like, I need to find a human trafficker. I need to find the cartel. I just walked into a bar. I just went bar hopping and I found the cartel.
Oh, absolutely. It's like Kentucky to a war zone.
Yeah.
But these 2 Dutch journalists, they got shot up. One of them, thank God, just got hit in his body armor plates. The other one got hit 5 times and they're backloaded out. They were working for a business, some Dutch business, but they're both all right, thank God. And their car didn't make it, which is the sad part of it. But we made it. We made it all the way to Lviv. What took like a good 3 days because the roads were gone and we're sort of dodging shit as we go with the Bitcoin car. So we've named it either the Bitcoin Bandits or the Bitmobile. We haven't really made up our minds yet.
But I like the Bitcoin Bandits. That's good.
But once we got into Lviv, we actually donated the car to some locals, like running medical work and whatever. But yeah, it was just a crazy thing to like, we've just bought this absolute shitbox of Bitcoin just to outrun a superpower's invasion. And, we got stuck in a town called Venetia, which is like when we're getting hit with, Su-25, what do they have, like Frogfoot aircraft overhead, like dropping bombs and AA, like anti-aircraft fire and all this. And then we're in the Bitcoin Bandit, just pinning, like, oh my God. So that it got wild. It was like my first real experience with something like that. So, but it's one of those things. And trying to create content along the way. So
just one of those things, one of those things you do. You get up to in Ukraine after a nice night at the bar.
Yeah, absolutely. And then speak to Tucker that night.
Yeah. So when you go back, what is your plan? Where are you going to go? What is going to be your focus, the mission, so to speak?
So to the hate of everyone, I never go in with any plan. Like everything I've ever done, like travel, I just one way. Like last time I went to Ukraine, I just booked a ticket there, and I'm like, well, I know a few people there, and I'll just survive the rest of the time. I'll just make my own way, meet people, do whatever, and go from there. And this trip will be very, very similar again. I'll go to Poland, jump into Ukraine, jump across the border. And then I know some guys doing some like orphan rescue stuff like that, some ex-service guys. So I'm going to try and jump along with some of that. I'd like to go back to some of the places I'd spent a lot of time that have been like flattened. I'm not really sure, but I think the best stuff I've ever had, and I'm very new to this, I've only done like back in the day, but it's only been doing this for 2 months. But the best videos and best stuff I've had is all by just being in the right place at the right time. But to be in the right place at the right time, you have to be there. So I'm like, well, I've just got to go back and be present, roaming around doing whatever. And, things will escalate, things will happen. And, if you're a friendly person and you make the right contacts, things tend to somewhat fall into place for you. That's the harder you work, the more luck you tend to have. So I'll go there. I'd like to get down to like Odessa, areas like that. But we'll see, because of course that a war zone like that can absolutely change on a dime. It's changing every minute. So things that become available might become unavailable, and, the other way as well. So at this time, it'll just be same as last time, just rolling through myself and just seeking whatever interests me and whatever I think will interest my like smaller audience too, because I think like the media might be covering the big stuff, like I have this bomb dropped here or that, but there's a legitimate interest too of just what is day-to-day life like in Lviv or in wherever. I'll probably stick away from Kiev because there's 1 million journos there and at least 950,000 of them hate me. Because I just keep calling out journos for just I don't know, just bullshit. But
thank you for your service.
So I'll just do what I can. And I go in with no expectation. And no expectation. You can't be disappointed.
Well, I think what you're doing is fantastic. I mean, calling out journalists bullshit, ding, ding, ding. We always love to hear that on this channel. Going your own way and finding what the other journalists aren't looking at, amazing. Independent publishing. These are checking all of the right boxes. So I think the most important question of this interview as we wrap things up here is, how can people support the Bitcoin bandits? Make what you're doing possible. Watch your channel. I'm sure so many people listening are like, holy crap, I cannot wait to watch this dude's live streams. Where can I watch it?
Yeah. Also the best way. So all my social media is just Willie beating cancer. Like that's all my like YouTube, Instagram is my main one. So it's Willie beating cancer. And like, I get some revenue from like YouTube ads. So just watching my content, helps me. But, in the description of the videos I have, if people want to support me directly, like through Patreon or PayPal, they can do that too. But I'm not super concerned with it. Like at the end of the day, I'm choosing to do this. It's my sort of savings. I'm like, I'll go and do this. And, people watching it and actually being interested in what I do, to me is like the weirdest thing ever. Because I'm like, why would anyone watch this like 5'7", like fat veteran want to just run around and do whatever? Like just cruise around talking shit and just swearing. And people are like, why are you swearing when the missiles coming across? I'm like, if you were standing in your front yard and the missiles, if you're not swearing, there's something wrong, go get checked up. But yeah,
the comments getting to you already, the fame and the comments, the little criticisms.
Awesome. No, I buy into it too much. I consider myself one of the top 10 best shit talkers in the world from all the time in the pubs.
You are Australian, so you're already naturally up there.
Absolutely. I'll go toe to toe with anyone on talking smack. But yeah, I'd love people to just, if they find it interesting and as well as anything medically related, I'm a super open book, probably too open towards anything. So if anyone needs to know anything, just reach out and I'll do what I can to let people know.
All right. Well, everyone watching, this was so cool. Usually like about halfway through when we were talking, I'd be like, okay, we got to wrap this up. People have short attention spans, but I've got ADHD and I've been fascinated this whole time. So solid interview, man. Solid chat. I cannot wait to see what you come out with next. Everyone, I'm going to put his links down in the description. Please go check him out. Please support him. It is so freaking rare to get normal people on the ground. Everyone has an agenda. That's why they want to watch you. That's why they want to watch this, you know, what do you say? 5'7" Australian leprechaun running around bomb zones. Like they want to watch you because you're genuine. You're just a real dude. Even if you're on the beers.
on the beers half the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone's got to kill me.
All right. Well, thank you all for watching this. It was a pleasure to talk to you, Matt, and I will see you all next time.